Sisters players, start your engines.
Spiky Bits.
So welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer from SpikyBits.com, and we are going to take a closer look at the Sisters of Battle Immolator kit today. We're going to unbox it and build it up for you guys and show you all the cool stuff you can do with it, give you some ideas for if you want to use magnets or maybe how to paint it and what to leave unbuilt and built, all sorts of different things. So if memory serves, we haven't seen a Sisters Immolator since I want to say 2003, maybe it was 2002, it might have even been 2004. I don't know. The early 2000s kind of blend together sometimes for me. But that being said, that was a pewter upgrade kit for the newer Rhino chassis that is out. This is a completely different Rhino chassis altogether, unlike the one we saw for the Sisters of Battle Rhino, which is the old Rhino sprues with an upgrade sprue very similar to like the Razorback or the Whirlwind or something like that. So this is completely redesigned from the ground up. It's a Demos pattern kit in and of itself with this round hatch and the two hatches in the front, which is technically a Mark 1. I don't even know how it all works anymore. I can't keep track of the canon of the marks and the patterns and all the different things. But either way, this kit, design-wise, looks great. It has just enough flat areas, enough optional details that you can leave on or you can leave off to just probably, be right around, not too ridiculous to build and paint, but if you want to add all this stuff in, you definitely can, or you don't have to. Now, as far as the kit goes, you're going to get the shared sprue with the Exorcist kit, which we'll talk about here in a second. But it actually comes with more sprues than the Exorcist does, where the Exorcist only comes with one additional sprue for the top and the organ guns and all that. This actually comes with two here to make the rotating turret and also all the little pulpit and things on the back and all the different weapon options for the turret itself. I guess I should also mention this clear piece right here for the front stained glass area. I think they want you to paint this with contrast, but we're going to talk about, because we're going to take a look at the instructions here in a second, there's actual not clear components to this as well. So you want to be a little careful here depending on how you go about dealing with this particular element here. When it comes time to actually paint, or maybe it's something you want to think about before you actually assemble your kit. So this whole section, if you already have one of the Exorcist kits, then you're already pretty familiar with this. Now, we didn't do the Exorcist kit. I don't know what happened that week. Maybe it was crazy. I don't remember, but we didn't do it. I did get it and take a look at it, and I thought it was a very, very in-depth, very cool looking kit. Maybe at some point we'll have a chance to do it here, but that was then and this is now. Right meow, in fact. So it's going to have all these built-in treads, which is kind of nice because the Rhino ones, well, they were kind of a pain, the conventional Rhino from the early 2000s to do. And I like this section back here, how you build up the curves. That just allows it to be a little bit more detailed and you don't have to put as much work into it right there. And then you're going to have the front section. Remember, don't glue that down, so the little heavy bolter there kind of turns and pivots. And that's got a front plate that goes on there as well. Some running boards on the side of the round hatches. The top goes down, and that's it. You only have to put that much worth of tread because the top up here already has track guards, very similar to what we saw in the past with I guess more 4-year-old kits like the Sakaran or something like that. They used to be track guards you could use for the Chimera or some of those kits, but then they kind of redesigned it and that didn't really matter anymore at that point. So you want all this to be flush for sure. Then they've got this little mini I don't know, shrine or pulpit thing in the back, which is kind of optional. You wouldn't really have to put it on there if you don't want to. Maybe just put on these rails if you want, or what have you. It's all up to you how much detail you want to put on here, because you are gonna have to at some point hopefully paint it. A lot of us have a little bit more time these days to hobby. Unfortunately, we're still working here, but that doesn't mean the majority of you watching this video aren't gonna have time to really crack out and get a lot of these labors of love and these hobby projects done. So on the side here, the same deal. You're gonna have the two little sections of flame, the braziers, so to speak, at the top of these stacks. Those are all going to go together in their 2 parts, which is really nice because they add a lot of detail to it. So this obviously isn't with the Exorcist kit, but the rest of it kind of is. So we're kind of moving into the new section of sprue right here. You're going to see the top turret, and they've got the little levers and everything, which is really neat. 4 different heads for the sister gunner, and then the assembly for the actual weapon mounts, which, you know, don't glue those in so they can rotate up and down, and of course don't glue this down so you can rotate it left and right, which I think they tell you at some point right here. These actually, I'm not sure yet. I haven't got my hot little hands on them. They may be push fit, they may be magnetized. Hopefully GW's been pretty good about push fit stuff, you know, with the Titans, the Titanicus, and some of their stuff in the past, like the repulsors and things. So we're gonna see what that ends up being. And then here, these are those non-clear components here. You got 2 little, we'll call these buttresses on the front, and then on the back, this kind of vertical stanchion type thing. So you're actually going to have non-painted component or non-clear components on the clear component. So this actually you wouldn't probably have to glue in. So you may want to keep this off. You may want to paint this separate, use some brush on primer on this so you don't get any overspray or anything onto these clear areas right here. That's just a consideration that you might want to think about. So you can use contrast paints and get in here. And I think GW had maybe not a tutorial, but I think there was like some colored guides on how to do that. Front tank shock ram, and then the side hatches assemble, and you've got the little optional cherub. Obviously, if you want to put all this stuff on, you're gonna have to paint it. And then it starts getting into more and more things, more and more optional accessories, smoke launchers, 100 killer missile. I think there's some other little parts too I might have forgotten about. No, I guess not. I guess that was pretty much it. Now on the Sisters Rhino, which we're going to show you at some point here, I think the little swooshes and things on the front are completely optional, whereas on this kit they are not. They're actually part of it. So just kind of keep that in mind. Some detail you're going to be stuck with, some detail like some of the stuff up here you might not have to actually glue down. Now, sprue-wise, taking a quick closer look here, you can see some of that detail that I was talking about is definitely part of the chassis here. Then you've got the areas where you're going to put the stacks and things, which is definitely worth consideration. The running boards, the brazers at the top, the hunter killer, the round hatches. There's a lot of detail on the bottom side here too, but you can see the fleur-de-lis on the round hatch. So everything's nice and crisp, and then you've got the tread on the bottom. Saves so much time when you're putting that together, let me tell you. The little shrine, actually that's the back hatch right there. So the back hatch even has a lot of detail, which is really neat to see how much they're really kind of putting into this. And then all the individual treads that go around the front and the back, little curvatures of the tread works right there. So lots and lots of detail on that sprue. Here's a closer look at the unpainted or the clear sprue right here. So you can see it's got some notches on the back and notches on the front. So you might be able to do a little paint by number sort of thing with some contrast paints, and that would turn out pretty good. Don't have a whole lot of ideas on that. So if you do, drop them in the comments so we can kind of share with everybody here. This is the turret on the top, and it's got all the left and right weapon mounts, the weapons, some of the weapons themselves, some are on the other one, and then the I guess weapon plate, armor plating that goes on the outside of that everything kind of locks into. And then there's the turret itself right there, and then you've got all the rest of the parts. I think these are some of the levers. Yeah, those are the levers right there. And there's the pilot arms and the cherub that's gonna go. I don't know what these go to. Oh, I guess there's some shoulder pads for the sister. And last but certainly not least is the top plate to the Rhino. Some of the little shrine on the back. I don't know what these. Oh, that's the torso. The battery ram on the front. Some of the bits. I think this is. I actually don't know what that. I think that's for the front. For the heavy bolter on the front, and then the weapons and the little. I don't know. We'll call that the little lattice work on the back area right there. So it still looks pretty well detailed, but you might have this opening if you don't use some of that. I don't know what you want to put in there instead, but we can take a look once it's kind of assembled and maybe come up with some ideas. So here it is, all assembled together, and like I said, you can definitely do it in sections, so you can keep that off. It actually locks in pretty well on those 2 little spots. And remember, once you primer anything, a lot of this is going to actually kind of stick together a little bit better. This turret, and then there's actually a little bit of detail work. I think they just used the same bottom plate from the original Rhino right there. So the turret goes in, and you can indeed leave off the clear bit right here as well if you want to. Now, Fortunately, these little parts right here are push fit, which is really nice. So once you get a little primer on here, these will definitely kind of lock in. The only thing I don't like about this is if you raise one, it doesn't auto raise the other because there isn't an axle bit going through there. But I mean, it's pretty well detailed. Like check out the sister gunner right there. That is very well done, and she's got the little, I guess, digital readout, the little levers. I guess each one controls one of these, maybe, perhaps, or one is just up and one is like to twist left or right. I'm not exactly sure, but you know, you can see a lot going on back here from the gunner's eye. So it's a really neat little kit, to be quite honest. Now, as far as the rest of it, you can see there is a lot of detail up in here. There's that area. So even if you put this on, you'll have a kind of a flat back right here that doesn't look too bad, except for the fact that that's a little plain. But maybe cut out a piece of card or something like that, and it would work just fine, I think. You know, if you just don't want to paint that extra detail like this this little thing and this little cherub duder person right there. And we're just gonna, okay, well, I guess that'll stay on there. So it locks in pretty decently. And there's the Hunter Killer. On the front, you can kind of see a better look at it. You got the smoke launchers and everything. So it's you know, composition-wise, it's pretty well done. Enough detail work and enough flat spaces to kind of not make it ridiculous. But I mean, you're still talking about a 3-hour build to do it right and kind of get everything trimmed up and looking good and glued together correctly right there. So not quite as much time as maybe like an Imperial Knight or something, but it's still a lot of work, to be quite honest with you. Now, how does this compare to some of the other kits out there? Well, we've got a original Rhino right here, so very similar. It's not a plastic Demos pattern, but they're roughly the same dimensions, and even the tread work is just a little different. Maybe I assembled my Rhino wrong. That would be embarrassing, but because the tread work's actually upside down on my Rhino. But hey, it works just fine. Size-wise, here's how the sisters kind of size up to this thing right here. So it actually, you know, it actually looks pretty respectable once you start putting on that hatch. Like, oh, okay, maybe they just duck out of that. Whereas, you know, sometimes you see with the Space Marines, there's just like, hey, how would they even fit in there? You know, sometimes. But that was the old Space Marines. That's not the newer Space Marines that we've seen with the Primaris stuff. And speaking of Primaris, well, here's an impulsor that we're working on for our Iron Warriors here. You probably saw me painting this on our Twitch stream, so I'm not quite finished with it yet. It's got a little mod on the back from Mods and Minis, a neat little kit, and we're going to put some Pop Goes the Monkeys Iron Warrior bits on there. It's going to be dope. But, you know, size-wise, it is a little bit more smaller than the Impulsor, which definitely makes sense because, you know, Primaris Duders are supposed to, well, they're sitting on the back right there, but whatever. So that kind of makes sense as far as that goes. Can't even be mad about that. So, you know, overall, I think it's you know, I think it's definitely the right size and pretty much everything Sisters players have been waiting for. If you've been playing Sisters since the early 2000s, well, I'm sure you can appreciate that this doesn't weigh 1,000 pounds when it comes to the pewter upgrades that used to go with this. So, very cool kit. I think this is going for $75. I want to say it's going for $75. Is that the right price? I didn't look it up. $75. Yeah, I was so excited to take a look at it, I forgot to price it out. So $75, currently on sale now. This is out. This is not a pre-order item. So remember, you can always get your hobbies for less from Miniature Market or dicehead.com. Thank you very much for watching this video, and check us out next week. Maybe we'll have some more Sisters of Battle vehicles and or miniatures to take a look at. So that's it for this one. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.